Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Hello. We still have 8 minutes, but I just wanted to say hello now that everybody was on. I'm Jessica. This is Barbara. She's going to moderate.
Hi.
The timekeeping is going to be a little bit harder on Zoom, so just keep your answers short and concise, please. I don't want to be here all night. I'm sure you don't either. At least you don't have a 3-hour drive home, so I guess that's that.
We were on Civil yesterday on Zoom,
Yeah,
and so through the chat, they were able to give us a 15-second warning.
sure. I can do that. Does that work? If I just do
Great
it.
suggestion, Lynn.
Okay, I'll just pop you a 15-second thing. Okay.
Oh, and maybe you could tell us how much time we have to respond.
Yeah, so Barbara's gonna go through the logistics of that right now with you, okay?
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Barbara. Can everyone hear me? Hands up if you can. Excellent. I can hear myself. That's good. I'm Barbara Roden, editor of the Ashcroft Cache Creek Journal newspaper. I'm going to be moderating tonight. So hello, I've kind of spoken to most of you. So I drew the names completely at random out of a hat. So after a very few introductory remarks, because no one is here to see me, I am going to invite each of you to have 3 minutes to discuss yourself, your party, your platform, whatever you feel, the Blue Jays' current winning streak, whatever you want to talk about. You'll have 3 minutes. So I'll give you the heads up now. Mr. Viss, you are first. Ms. Belay, you are second. Mr. Niles, you are third. Ms. Perrin, you are fourth. So you'll each have 3 minutes in that order. And then once we've done all the questions, you will each have 2 minutes to sum up, and we will go in reverse order. So it will be Perrin, Niles, Belay, and Viss to conclude. In between those 2 points, I have a number of questions here. You'll probably be familiar with most of them. Some of them have been sent in by people who we suspect will be viewing tonight. And you will each have 1 minute to formulate a response to the question. And what I'm going to do is on my screen, Ms. Belay, you are in the top left. So for the first question, I will ask you first. I'm going to go around clockwise on my screen. Next question, I will start with the next person, who is you, Ms. Perrin. So is that clear as mud?
Yes.
You said 1 minute per answer, is that it? Sorry. 1 minute per answer. Okay. And if you feel that you don't want to answer a particular question, that is absolutely fine. You can just decide to pass. You don't have to take up the full minute. Just throwing that out there for you to keep in mind. And we are going to try and hold to the 1 minute, and Jessica is going to be doing the timekeeping just because there are 4 of you. Ms. Gruel cannot be with us tonight, but there are 4 of you, and we have 9 or 10 questions here. So against, you've all spoken at the beginning. We've had the questions, 2 minutes to wrap up. We don't want to keep people away from their Ovaltine for too long. So does anyone have any questions? Need anything clarified? Okay.
Maybe one question.
Yes.
Should we mute ourselves in between every time? Because I tend to forget to unmute myself. So I was wondering if somebody was in charge of muting everybody else, or.
No, you could do that in case we have small children, pets, trains, jackhammers, anything like that in the background. That would be great if you could mute yourselves when you're not actually talking.
Yeah, and think about unmuting. That's the thing.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of our viewers lip read, but probably not many.
So if we don't have any noises, can we just stay on?
Sure, it's entirely up to you. If you don't have any crying children or barking dogs in the background, feel free to leave yourself unmuted.
Thank you.
Do you have water out there?
Are we starting right at 7 o'clock on the dot?
That's the plan, to start right at 7 o'clock on the dot, Jessica?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes, right at 7 o'clock on the dot. Let me get some water. This is my first sighting of a smile cookie. You know
I
that.
need to pee.
Well, there's some in there. You can have one.
Smile cookie.
The bathroom, but I just drank coffee because I was tired. They were ready in 3 hours and I can't sleep. So that's all right.
Looking forward to a great debate again, everyone.
Yes, a very civil debate.
Yes, looking forward to it. Should be fun.
Yes.
Okay, Jessica, whoa, bang. Jessica, is there, is there a facility for anyone to ask questions during this, or is this our lot?
They can on YouTube, on live.
Okay. Okay.
On chat.
And how are you gonna give the time signal that there's 15 seconds left? Or will
I'm
you,
just gonna type the message to everybody, just so that I'm not having to switch between.
okay,
So just a quick, it'll pop up.
okay. And let me know when you're ready to go, 7 o'clock.
Go ahead.
Huh? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this All Candidates Forum for the riding of Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon. Advanced voting has now finished for the federal election. Election day itself is coming up on Monday, September the 20th. So that is your opportunity to vote if you have not already done so. Record number of people took advantage of advance voting in Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon, up about 3,000 over the election 2 years ago. So good job to everyone who got out there in advance. I'm Barbara Roden. I'll be moderating this forum, and we have 4 of the 5 candidates here today. Geet Grewal of the Liberal Party unfortunately sent her regrets, but we have the other 4 candidates in Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon here this evening. The format of tonight's forum is going to be each of the candidates will have 3 minutes to introduce him or herself. Then there will be a series of questions with each candidate having the opportunity to reply. They will have 1 minute to form a reply. And then at the end, we will go in reverse order with the candidates closing off with up to 2 minutes of remarks about themselves, the election, the party, whatever they want to talk about. So we have with us Brad Viss of the Conservative Party of Canada, Nicole Belay of the Green Party of Canada, Lynn Perrin of the New Democratic Party of Canada, and Tyler Niles of the People's Party of Canada. And we are going to kick off with 3 minutes from Brad Viss of the Conservative Party of Canada.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you to all of my fellow candidates for being at this important debate, the biggest for the entirety of the Fraser Canyon region this election. It goes without saying that my heart is with Lytton, British Columbia right now. On June 29th, fires devastated the village of Lytton and Lytton First Nation. Forest fires ravaged many parts of this riding throughout the summer. And I know a lot of people have lost their homes and are suffering right now. And my heart goes out to them. I know they didn't want an election, nor did most other Canadians. When I was elected less than 2 years ago to serve Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon, it was the honor of my professional career. One of the commitments I made at the debate in Ashcroft in the last election was to be present and available in all corners of the riding. For the most part, with the exception of some hiccups caused by COVID-19 and interprovincial travel restrictions, I made a real effort and delivered on making sure that my staff or I was in all communities on a regular basis. I know for many constituents that meant a lot, and they were very happy to have an MP that was present to hear their concerns and to address all the local issues, irrespective whether there was 10,000 people or 1,000 people in the community. So if I get reelected on Monday, September 20th, my commitment again is to continue that program. I will likely enhance it to be present and provide everyone in the riding, irrespective of location, with the same level of service from their federal MP. I believe the Fraser Canyon, the best days are ahead. In Ashcroft right now, the terminal is being built up. There is a lot of economic activity in the region, and I'm very, very excited about the future. The Conservative Party understands that rural Canada doesn't always get the attention it deserves from the federal government, and we've put forward a plan to elevate rural Canada moving forward. That includes a tourism strategy for a small town like Ashcroft, especially. I know in Spence's Bridge, they've been very big on a rural strategy as well. And I look forward to hopefully implementing that strategy upon re-election. I've heard loud and clear throughout the Fraser Canyon that there needs to be more emphasis, and this is in our rural Canada strategy, on police times, first responders times. I know this is a big deal, and I look forward to addressing that if I'm re-elected as well. Finally, again, it's just a real honor to be here, and I look forward to the discussion tonight.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Nicole Belay of the Green Party of Canada.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to acknowledge that I'm speaking from the unceded, ancestral, and shared territory of the Stolo Nation. And I would like to thank the Hub of Ashcroft for organizing the debate. When I'm canvassing, I'm often asked why I'm running. I believe that I'm the best to address the needs of Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon riding. I believe my qualifications and experience make me the most qualified candidate. As a mother, a farmer, a teacher, and an environmentalist, and a restorative justice facilitator, I've worked with others on issues that impact our community. I'm willing to stand up and fight on the floor of the House. The one crisis that stands out for me is the climate emergency, because it affects all other aspects of our society. I've been very privileged to experience lush nature, thriving ecosystems, and spectacular natural environment. I just want the same for our kids and their kids and their kids' kids. We live in a very rich country. We have tremendous resources. I want our wealth fairly shared because our seniors deserve better, because all people deserve a safe shelter, because I want quality healthcare, because I want all kids to have nutritious food, because everyone deserves to be heard and respected for who they are and what they believe in. And I want Parliament to work better. I assure you, you can count on me I will stand up for and fight for you. And tonight, my thoughts are with the Lettonites. Thank you.
Thank you. Our third speaker is Tyler Niles of the People's Party of Canada. Mr. Niles.
Hi, thank you for having us, and thank you for all the other candidates who were able to join tonight in the debate for the Fraser Canyon. My name is Tyler Niles. I am a certified Red Seal mechanic. I joined the People's Party when I saw the way that our government was getting involved in every aspect of our lives and not with unrelenting force. I joined the People's Party because we have a great platform based on freedom, fairness, respect, and responsibility. And that's something that we want to give to each and every Canadian. We want to help rural communities with their healthcare by turning over GST to the provinces to give them more freedom to hire paramedic staff and doctors and hospital beds and nurses in their to make up for their own shortcomings. And we would also like to see more police and a quicker police response time in these rural communities. We'd like to be able to bolster and boost tourism in the rural communities because we know that that is a big part of their income and it helps them get through the year. As well, we would like to see something done about the return of the salmon stocks in the area. We know that they are decreasing and in some cases almost extinct entirely. And we are looking to work with First Nation community fishers as well as commercial and recreational fishers on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we have Lynn Perrin of the New Democratic Party of Canada.
Thank you very much, Hub, for hosting us this evening virtually, and I really appreciate you keeping us safe. I'm grateful to live, work, and volunteer and join this debate from the unceded territory of the Coast and Interior Salish people. I'm involved as an NDP candidate due to numerous urgent issues at the current time for Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon. Some that I've been engaged in over the last number of years under both Conservative and Liberal governments are the climate crisis due to fossil fuel expansion, for instance, the Trans Mountain expansion, which puts our health, air, land, and water at risk. COVID-19 has put a spotlight on the historic insufficient health transfers from the federal government to the provinces, which has really had a very tragic result on seniors' facilities. There's a lack of beds at the Ashcroft Hospital. In fact, you don't even have an ER except on weekends. This is unacceptable. There's a widening income gap, and there are 1% of us billionaires. The other 99% are struggling, and that is not acceptable. We have a lack of affordable housing, and it's during a housing boom. So that does not make any sense. And in some of the riding, we have a lack of public transportation. And for rural communities, of course, we've lost the Greyhound service. And so that is an issue that needs to be resolved. So I've lived in rural and isolated communities 25 years of my adult life. So I really appreciate the challenges of living in a rural community. Right now, we really rely on internet service to do a lot of essential things in our life. Services in rural and isolated communities. There is not the public transportation that we need in rural and isolated communities, and there is not the healthcare that we need in rural and isolated communities. And I am certain that our 116-page Ready for Better commitments will resolve a lot of issues for the Fraser Canyon region of our riding. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, we move into the questions. And the first question, and you can ask me to repeat it if by the time I get around to you've forgotten the exact wording. A common refrain in the north part of the riding is Mission decides who will govern in Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon. How do you reconcile the needs of the small towns in the riding against those of Mission? And I am going to start with Nicole Belay of the Green Party.
I knew I would forget, sorry. So reconciling, I actually don't think that there's such a divide, there's such a difference between Mission and the other communities in the riding. Like when I hear about your problem of the hospital that is open part-time only and you don't have specialists, and we had the same problem, we have the same problem with our hospital. It got gutted too also. So it's, we live a lot of the same situation, maybe not as pronounced as you. We also would like an access to our Fraser River. I know that some of the people want access to the slough. And other, I don't find it that different. So I think we can definitely work together and understand each other. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Lynn Perrin.
Well, I do see a difference between the urban centers of our riding and the rural and isolated centers. I mean, I know that from an Ashcroft resident that if you need an ER on, you know, when yours is closed, you've got an hour's travel to go. And most recently, I've heard that the Kamloops Hospital ER is not sufficiently staffed. We just had the tragedy of the woman who died in that ER just recently. And I've lived in a rural community and I know what it's like to not have internet. So, you know, there is a divide, and you need to be aware of it before you can do anything about it. And I'm certainly aware of it.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we have Mr. Niles of the People's Party of Canada.
Yes, I think there is a bit of a divide between rural communities and the District of Mission. We have a relatively good transportation system. I think that there needs to be a transportation system or at least a Greyhound replacement that services the rural communities in the Fraser Canyon, as there are people up there who do not drive or do not have a license or do not have access to a car. There is their hospital issue, and we need to be able to have an ER that functions 7 days a week as opposed to just on weekends, because accidents happen all days of the week. And as well, internet coverage and cell coverage is something that should be available to all, whether it's more towers or more power to the grid. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Viss, your turn.
Right. The way I understood this question is, how does an MP with a large population base, I think almost up to 80% of the riding in Abbotsford and Mission, still serve the very rural yet part of the riding, which is the Fraser Canyon, which is so far away? Like I said in my opening remarks, I made it a priority to be present and to have my staff present when I was in Ottawa or working down in the valley most of the time, to be present in the Fraser Canyon. And I use the rural supplement that the MP for Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon gets to do just that, to be present in the canyon. I don't think there's been an MP in a generation who's put as many resources, both personally and through his staff, in the Fraser Canyon in a generation. And my commitment is to continue doing that. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you very much. So the next question is, this is going to be starting with Ms. Perrin, is going to be the first one with this. How has climate change impacted this riding, and what course of action should we take?
Well, I mean, we've seen with the tragedy in Lytton and with the alerts in other areas such as Lillooet, with regard to wildfires, that residents are, always, ready to be ready to leave their homes. And another thing that happens is, of course, drought, and that can affect any kind of agriculture in the area. Also, our salmon habitat, our little creeks that are so essential to our spawning are suffering as well from drought. So it's a pretty large impact on the riding. We want to get rid of fossil fuel subsidies. We want to stop the Trans Mountain expansion.
Right, thank you very much. And next we go to Mr. Niles.
Thank you. With the wildfires and forest fires that we have, what happened in Lytton was devastating, and we can do better with forest management. We need to get better at cleaning up the blowdown and the deadfall and removing all of the dry fuel subsidies that are laying on the forest floors. As well, we need to stop spraying and poisoning the deciduous trees that hold a vast amount of water. They grow a lot faster and they provide food and coverage for other animals, as well as a burn break, as they are slower to burn. We also should work on maybe increasing our reservoir levels, providing that the slope sides can withstand that, and that would help in times of drought with increased water. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Viss.
Can you please repeat the question?
How has climate change impacted this riding, and what course of action should we take?
Right. Thank you for the question. I think everyone knows here on tonight's panel that we recorded the 3 hottest temperatures ever in the history of Canada in Mission-Matsqui Fraser Canyon in the month of June, which led to some of the fires in the Lytton area. We're still recovering from the 2017 elephant fires. So one of the things that we need to do specifically in Mission-Matsqui Fraser Canyon is natural climate change solutions, which include habitat restoration and active forest management, both to replant the forests that were burned. And I think there's a lot that we can do to empower some of the Secwépemc and St'át'imc nations to undertake some of that work as well. So we need to work with Indigenous communities in the rural parts of the riding, and we need to get very active to rebuild our forests to prevent flooding and further devastation down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nicole Belay, your turn.
Yes, the effect on Ashcroft, I think it's been living for weeks with smoke, and it's been living with a feeling of never know when I have to leave my home. So you're not safe. And so how to solve it now? And I'm just going to state a few facts. Right now, Canada's emissions have not gone down. We had never met our target. We're the worst country in the G7. The Canadian Energy Agency is telling us we can't go have more fossil fuel projects. All other parties are offering little tiny steps. We are offering giant steps because we need to do that. So we need to invest in clean energy. The clean energy sector is employing more people right now than the fossil fuel industry. We need to invest in retrofitting all of the existing building, creating lots of jobs, good local jobs. We need to retrain all the workers. We need to invest in a public electrified transit everywhere. And
that's your 1 minute, sorry.
Sorry.
All right. Okay, so we move on to a somewhat related question. And the first person for this one is going to be Mr. Niles. What can the federal government do to help prepare our rural communities for future wildfires, flooding, drought, and other natural disasters.
Thank you. Our federal government can work with First Nations Forestry Services and provincial forestry services on active forest management, reforestation, and planting of trees that are necessarily more fire resistant, like deciduous trees that grow naturally after a logging cut. And through that, we can again help reduce the devastation of forest fires and future flooding. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, Mr. Viss.
Yeah, one point, I think some of the points I referenced in the last question regarding natural climate change solutions and forest management still apply to this one. But what was abundantly clear this year during the forest fires is that the contracts signed between Indigenous Affairs Canada and many of the First Nations with Emergency Services BC left many people wanting for adequate response times to protect communities during the forest fires. So the federal government really needs to look at the contracts they have with Emergency Services BC. And I also think we need to empower our local First Nations who know the land about as good as anyone or better to be conducting some of the forest fire prevention work as well on a regular basis. We can't forget what happened this year. We need to do much more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nicole Belay.
We need to rapidly scale up the funding of the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund for project to avoid the worst of the impacts of climate change, like wildfire mitigation, flooding, stormwater system, restoration of shorelines, etc. And we need to empower the communities to be in charge of some of these projects. But we have to realize that all we can do will never be enough to save everything. Nature is much stronger than us. So we have to address the root causes of these wild climate events. And that's which is a climate crisis, of course. So moving towards net zero emission as quickly as possible is the greatest economic opportunity in generations. And Canada can be in front of the line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And finally, Lynn Perrin.
Yes, we need to get rid of fossil fuel subsidies. And we need to use those billions of dollars, and they're billions every year, for climate change mitigation, whether it's wildfires, drought, or flooding. We absolutely have got to stop fossil fuel funding. We've also got to leave fossil fuels in the ground. We've got to have an aggressive climate crisis action. The New Democrats have a plan to reduce our emissions to 50% of 2005 by 2030. And it's urgent. It's absolutely urgent. We cannot keep on promising. We have got to act immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we move from the general to the specific. Several of you have already referenced what happened to Lytton in June of this year. So the people of Lytton did suffer a catastrophe. 77 days later, they are still homeless and without a plan, unable to even visit their properties or have insurance adjusters visit to begin assessments. What can the federal government do to address their needs? And we will start with Mr. Viss.
Yeah, this is the billion-dollar question. I had an update from Mayor Polderman last week about the frustration he's having with the provincial government over the toxicology reports, which are holding up a lot of this work. So I think it's also might be a question of resources at this point. Again, this goes back to my opening statement. This election shouldn't have been called. Up until the day before this election was being called, I was rushing to get reports in and letters into the Treasury Board Secretariat to get the emergency funding from the federal government to help Lytton. Frankly, it's a shame on this country and the Prime Minister that he called this election when I know for a fact Chief Janet Webster said, if you call this election, Prime Minister, you're going to forget about us. And that's what's been happening. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. So we need to have a functioning federal government for anything to start happening and for the money to start flowing. But the toxicology reports in the immediate term, which are holding up the insurance adjustments, that needs to be from the provincial government, and it needs to get done now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So on the question of Lytton, Nicole Belay.
We need to have communication between the three levels of government. Right now, it's not happening, obviously, because of the election and other things. And so we need to be there on the ground and listen to the people and work with the people that are in charge. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Lynn Perrin.
Yes, as a candidate in this election, one of the concerns I had was that the ability of Lytton residents to vote in this election. So I contacted the DRO at Elections Canada, and I'm just going to read what she has said, if you don't mind. Heather says, we have assigned all of the Lytton voters to the Clemes, CLEMES Hall in Spence's Bridge to vote. They can also vote by mail. And for Lytton residents, we have arranged for them to go to any polling place in our electoral district and use the transfer form to vote there. They will talk with the CPS at the voting place, and they will complete a transfer form and be allowed to vote there. So I certainly would not want anyone to suffer any health consequences by going into a toxic area. So while I appreciate it's frustrating, I do believe that it's really important. I'm just such a person who believes in safety, and I really believe that it's important that we can be certain that, you know, people are not going to suffer ill health because of going there.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Niles.
Sorry, can you please repeat the question?
The people of Lytton suffered a catastrophe. 77 days later, they are still homeless and without a plan, unable to even visit their properties or have insurance adjusters visit to begin assessments. What can the federal government do to assess their needs?
Thank you. I think the federal government needs to work much closely with the provincial government and the First Nations self-government to be able to access the area and get the insurance adjusters in there to review the fire damage, to be able to start the rebuilding process for Lytton. I think it's a shame that it's taken 77 days and still nothing has been done. I think we need to have some accountability in government and accountability for who's in charge of the why the insurance adjusters are not allowed in at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we've had a question come in from a member of the public, and we're going to start off with Nicole Belay for this question. Over the last few years, we have seen an increase in open drug use, homelessness, vagrancy, and an increase in property crime. As a result, there is an increasing feel of lawlessness and lack of safety. What will your party do to bring back law and order to our streets? So Nicole Belay.
Sorry, again. I think the Green Party, we always try to go back and at the root cause, and that's what I would try to do. So I'm not the kind of person that will say go strong on police and stuff like that. I would try to go the prevention way. I would try to offer more service to these people. And so, I mean, the Green Party wants to double the funding for communities because they are dealing with all the problems on the ground. And so they need more funding because there's all sorts of crises like what you named now. So we need for the opioid, we need more treatment center right now, and we need more fund for healthcare, for addiction, and so having a predictable funding for the community, they could offer the necessary, some of the necessary service anyway.
Okay, that's a minute?
Thank
That's
you.
1 minute, sorry. Next, we move on to Lynn Perrin, Law and Order.
Yes, I used to work for federal corrections, so I consider the incarceration of people to be a failure of our society, not particularly of the individual. And I support Nicole in that we've really got to get to the root cause. Education, the lack of education is a real driver for, criminal activity. Poverty is another driver of criminal activity. And so the New Democrats and Jagmeet Singh have commitments towards reducing poverty and increasing education. And also, we need to do more restorative justice instead of, incarcerating people.
All right, thank you very much. Tyler Niles.
Thank you. I think we need to work on a route. There's a few roots of the issue here. We need to increase police response times by adding more police members to the rural community police forces. We also need to work on a gang exit strategy for the lower level or the younger or the newcomers to the gang lifestyle who get into the opioids or crime of any level. And I also think we need to have stricter criminal sentences for those who are bringing in large masses of drugs and distributing them to the rural communities and to the people at risk. I believe there is a mental health crisis in this country, along with a drug and opioid crisis, and we need to find suitable ways to take care of those in a respectable manner to the people whose lives they are affecting. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And Mr. Viss.
Yeah, as part of the Conservatives' commitment to a fair deal for rural Canada, we want to appoint a Minister of Rural Affairs who would oversee some of the work that we need to do as part of tackling rural crime. It's very unfortunate since the Liberals came into power, despite all their rhetoric, that we've seen a 20% increase in homicides since 2015. One of the biggest issues I hear about in the Fraser Canyon is the Wanderer Inn and medical marijuana licenses, and the fear that there is organized crime tied to the use of medical marijuana licenses. The Conservative Party is committed to reviewing the medical marijuana licensing program to make sure that people using those licenses are using it for their own consumption and not for distribution through criminal networks. I think we need to amend the criminal code, and it's in the Conservative platform to do so, to go after gang networks as well, because from my discussions with RCMP in the Fraser Canyon, they don't feel that they have the tools to do what they need to do to keep our community safe. And that's really, really troubling to hear from RCMP officers. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, our next question will lead off with Lynn Perrin. What will your party do to help address the lack of affordable or sufficient housing, including rental housing, in rural communities, especially for seniors and those on fixed incomes?
Well, what is happening is because the housing is so unaffordable in our larger urban centers, people are choosing to move out to our more rural communities. And of course, that in itself increases housing prices. We want to end speculation in housing. by foreign buyers. So we will implement a 20% tax on any property that is purchased by foreign buyers. We also want to get rid of any kind of criminal activity when it comes to housing, like using illegal funds to purchase properties. We want to, really put an end to that as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So next on the same question, we move to Tyler Niles.
Thank you. Housing is primarily a provincial and local issue, as there isn't much the federal government can do to change zoning and bylaw, municipal zoning laws, bylaws, and building codes. What we can do is lower immigration from 400,000 to 150,000, which will increase homes available in the metropolitan areas, which will decrease the pricing there, which will help people who are moving to rural areas move back to their municipal areas, freeing up housing in the rural communities. We also want to work with provinces to curb money laundering through foreign house buying and speculation house buying. And we also want to work with provinces and territories to increase housing available through better use of the available land. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Viss.
Yeah, on housing affordability, the Liberals committed $70 billion under the National Housing Strategy. On August 10th, the Parliamentary Budget Officer came forward and said that only 50% of the allocated funds to date that were committed were actually implemented and or actually spent and resulted in new units being built or for supports for existing social housing. It's very clear in the Fraser Canyon that there is an issue with seniors housing. Many seniors that live in their single family detached homes want to stay in the communities that they've been living in for a number of years, but don't find that there's other options in the small towns. And I think there's a solution to that through the National Housing Strategy, but we need to make that program more responsive. It's very clear that the program is catered towards urban areas and municipalities with the resources to actually complete an application. Even Burnaby, one of the largest cities in British Columbia, to get $150,000 of funding had to do 750 pages of application work. That's just not tenable for a community like Ashcroft or Cache Creek or let alone Spence's Bridge. So we need to cater the National Housing Strategy and apply a rural lens and get money out the door. Secondly, there is a big issue with Indigenous housing. There's a disproportionate number of Indigenous people who don't have adequate housing, and the Conservative Party is committed to a for Indigenous, by Indigenous housing strategy. Get the federal government out of the way, get the money out the door, and get the housing built that everyone knows needs to get built today. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. And Nicole Belay.
In the short term, the Green government will provide a retroactive residential assistance program to protect Canadians at risk of eviction or being driven into homelessness. And as I said earlier, we want to double the funding for communities. And with that money, the communities could decide what kind of incentivize to build the type of houses that they need, so they can choose, because it's different in different communities. But because the problem of affordable housing or unaffordable housing comes from the big city initially and it's spilling over, we also need to address that, and it's by better regulation, removing tax exemption for the real estate trust investment, and then empty home tax for foreign and corporate residential property owners. Also, refocusing the mandate of the CMHC to build social housing, because the federal government got pretty much out of it for the last 40 years. So it's important to fund the social housing.
And that's your time, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Okay. So our next question has come in again from a member of the public. And so the first one who gets this one is Tyler Niles, People's Party of Canada. What are the parties going to do to hold government accountable to fiscal responsibility during times like these so that we do not have the massive overrun of deficit that will take until 2070 to pay off?
Excellent question. Thank you. Our People's Party of Canada plan is to have the budget balanced in 4 years. That way you can hold us accountable if we don't balance it in the first mandate. And to do that, we are going to stop government handouts. We are going to end programs like CERB to help get people back to work and get them back to paychecks and get them back to putting money back into the economy. We are also going to cut foreign aid through our climate program to developing countries. We are going to stop giving $1 billion a year to the CBC, and we are going to stop corporate handouts in the $10 billion range. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Viss.
Right. One of my most unique experiences in Parliament since I was elected was debating the Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, over the one of the spending packages. And we were given solely 5 hours to debate something like $80 billion in spending. I don't think Parliament or the Canadian public are well served when Parliament, which is tasked with reviewing how expenditures are made, is cut out of the process and governments act alone trying to usurp the power of Parliament. I generally agree that we need to start phasing out some of the COVID-19 programs in order to get back to a fiscally sustainable position. The Conservatives have a reasonable plan to get back to balance within 10 years, but I am fully aware of the severity of this problem and the need to take action immediately. There is a lot in the government of Canada that doesn't serve the people, but yet takes up a lot of money. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Nicole Belay, Green Party of Canada.
The Green Party wants to be fiscally responsible, and we know that we are a rich country and we need to redistribute the money. Right now, the top 1% of the top 1% people are owning a quarter of the wealth, and they're not paying their fair share of taxation. So we want to go get part of that taxation. We want to also install a micro tax of 0.5% on all financial transactions in the stock market. And the green and just so to realize, we have to realize that keeping the status quo is very expensive. Like just the air pollution, the health impact of air pollution right now for 1 year in Canada is $120 billion. So that money, that's the kind of money that we have to go and we can't pay forever. The Green Party platform is ambitious, but it's achievable, and it's a plan to secure Canada's sustainable prosperity. It's a bold platform, but that's what we need. And with the real leadership, we can really drive the economy of Canada.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Lynn Perrin of the New Democratic Party.
Good. Hello?
Hello, Lynn, it's your turn.
Yeah, sorry, my internet went off for a little bit there.
Oh, dear.
And I'm not even in a rural area. So during the COVID-19 recovery, no one should be left behind in the name of economic recovery. There should never be acceptance by government of any level of collateral damage, like leaving people behind for the sake of profits of large corporations. So the Trudeau government has backstopped profitable banks and corporations $750 billion in this COVID plan, COVID funding plan. Meanwhile, I just checked CRA, and 124,000 people over 65 have to work their pensions are not enough for them to live on, and they're collecting the CRB. That doesn't seem fair. We have got to tax the 1%. We have got to find out how we can tax those people who are hiding their money in tax havens. And the NDP want to provide the funding to the CRA to be able to do that.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, well, this leads on to another question about the economy and economics. Economic priorities and where to funnel federal money often provides the clearest picture of what divides Canada's national parties. Where should Canada be focused when it comes to the economy? And Mr. Viss, I'm going to throw to you first.
I think we need to be focused on Main Street. Across the riding, I've never seen so many help wanted signs for restaurants, the hospitality sector. We need to get people back to work. There is a major labor shortage in our riding and across Canada that needs to be addressed. So the Conservatives have put forward a number of policies, both to support workers and to encourage businesses to hire more people. One of the signature policies is that for people who have been off work for 6 months or longer due to COVID-19 and are taking CERB, under a Conservative government, we would encourage people to get hired by subsidizing salaries of 50% for a period of time. We also have a super CEBA loan to give businesses flexibility to make the investments they need to function in the changing environment that many have found themselves in. And we have a capital investment program to for businesses making investments up to $100,000 to get $25,000 back of that if they're making capital investments to improve their business and hire more people. We also have a plan to give workers $2,800 in rebates, and we've committed to increasing the disability supplement from the federal government from $750 to $1,500 a month. We have a balanced approach to help workers and businesses.
Right, thank you very much. And next we go on the same question to Nicole Bellet.
You will not be surprised if I say that it has to the focus has to be on the renewable, investing in renewable energy, on the transition to a clean economy, and on restoration of our ecosystem. And to go through this transition, because there will be uncertainty, because it's the major change happening. We propose the guaranteed livable income. And the guaranteed livable income is a payment for all Canadians. It's a universal program. So it has many advantages. So it's very easy to administer. And it stimulates people to work because they don't claw the money right away. It promotes entrepreneurship. It promotes health because it raises millions of people right now are below the poverty line, and so it raise all these people from the poverty, and it could grow the economy even more than what it costs. And I think I'm off.
Thank you very much, Lynn Perrin.
Yes, we have to use the COVID-19 recovery as an opportunity to address the other crisis, which of course is our climate crisis. And the New Democrats and Jagmeet Singh want to take the money that is subsidizing fossil fuels and put it towards green, sustainable economy. We also need to have more post-secondary training, and that'd help in the trades, that'd help have workers to build houses. And also, New Democrats want to get rid of interest on student loans. Why are we subsidizing profitable fossil fuel companies while we're charging students $4 billion a year in interest on their student loans. In addition, Jagmeet Singh and the NDP want to forgive the first $20,000 of student loans. This will help young home buyers be able to afford to buy a home.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Niles.
Thank you. We need to get everybody, workers included, off of government handouts and government subsidy. We need less government involvement in every aspect of our lives. And to do that, we need to be able to get them back to work. I know lots of cook staff that have made more money on CERB than they would in their standard paycheck from work. So to get people back to work and to deal with this work shortage, we need to end those subsidies. We also need to encourage people to take vocational school, get a trade, and that helps with our housing industry and industry across the board. If we get more people involved in trade, more people get paychecks, there's more job satisfaction, which in turn relates to more personal satisfaction. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And next question. And the first one I go to with this is Nicole Belay of the Green Party. How will your party address truth and reconciliation with First Nations?
All right. So we continue to see the lived impact of colonization and polarization, and hate crimes are on the rise, and thousands of Indigenous people, children, have been discovered in unmarked graves and across the country. And we need to dismantle the systemic racism. The Green Party will combat systemic racism in every public institution through fostering Indigenous self-determination, providing a fair deal for youth, and tackling identity-based hate, and ensuring that the creation of a just society is at the center of all decision-making. We want to implement all the 94 call to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, implement all the calls for justice from the National Inquiry for the murder and missing and murder Indigenous women and girls. And we want to ensure that all the First Nation are truly involved in the development and the design of the UNDRIP to be becoming a law in the law. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think we just might have lost Mr. Viss. Also, okay, no, he disappeared. All right, so we move on to Lynn Perrin on the same question about truth and reconciliation.
So while Mr. Trudeau talks about his commitment to reconciliation, very few of the recommendations have been implemented, and we need to do that. We also need to really bring forward the United Nations Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous People in real terms, and not just nice words on a piece of paper. Right now, women and girls in a number of communities in the Fraser Canyon and beyond are being harassed by pipeline construction workers. This must end. This absolutely must end. And right now in the Mission part of our riding, and close, of course, to Ashcroft, we have the whole matter of the unmarked graves of Indigenous residential school children. And that seems to have just gone right off the radar, even though there was a lot of attention to it. Even though our flags are still at half-mast due to it, it is not being discussed during this election campaign, and that is absolutely unacceptable.
Thank you very much. Mr. Niles.
We have seen many horrendous injustices committed by all forms of past Canadian government towards Indigenous people. while we can't change the past, we can look towards living harmoniously together in the future. We intend to do that by tearing up the Indian Act and restarting a new Indian Act that doesn't have any state of dependency on the government for the Indigenous people. We want to use or gather discussions from all Indigenous leaders from all Indigenous communities across Canada to form a fair and just Indian Act that treats all parties equally and everybody feels like they're treated fairly at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. And finally on this question, Mr. Vitz.
Please repeat the question.
The question is, how will your party address truth and reconciliation with First Nations?
Right. I think first and foremost, after what happened in Kamloops, we need to put a comprehensive plan to implement recommendation 71 to 76 in the Truth and Reconciliation. Some of those deal with the trauma that many suffered. What I've heard from local First Nations constituents is that we need to do much more on education with the general public, which I think we saw a lot of in the aftermath of the discovery at Kamloops, but there's still a lot more to do. And I think the federal government should have already undertaken the seismic or archaeological work at every former residential school in the country to ensure that there aren't more Kamloops out there, to give the justice to the people that suffered at the hand of government. So there's a lot of work to do on truth and reconciliation right here in Mission Matsqui, Fraser Canyon, and across the country. And one of the first things I did was raise a petition at the request of my Indigenous constituents when we went on a march in protest to what happened. And I commit to working with all of the First Nations to bring forward their claims and get them the money they need and deserve right now in the aftermath of Kamloops. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next question is another one that has come in from a member of the public watching tonight. And we're going to throw to Lynn Perrin of the NDP to start with this one. What are you going to do to ensure that there is more accountability around ethical violations at every level?
Yes, I must say that I've really been paying attention to both the SNC-Lavalin situation and also the We charity situation, so much so that I've actually gone on Parleview TV and attended the committee meetings virtually. Canadians can do that. You can, in real time, watch the committee's deliberations. And I really think that our parliamentary committees need to have more ability to get to the truth and more ability to call witnesses and forget about cabinet confidences and that kind of thing when you know, there are serious issues of potential corruption in government, because it really affects the ability of Canadians to trust their governments, and that is a real risk for democracy.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we go to Tyler Niles. What are you going to do to ensure there is more accountability around ethical violations at every level?
I think we need to have a more strict accountability within our parliamentary processes. I believe it was the NDP who helped Justin Trudeau put an end to one of his investigations for his many scandals. We need to stop having parties be able to side with other parties and get in the way of justice. We also need to increase fines doled out by the Ethics Commissioner. I believe some of the fines that he's given out are in the $200-300 range, which is a slap on the wrist when you consider some of the ethics violations and the payoff returns that the accused party stands to benefit from. I think we need a smaller government, which will help increase accountability, and that will help the RCMP be able to do their job in investigations. It also might be beneficial to have a third party run investigations aside from the RCMP, who is uninfluenced by any political means. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brad Viss of the Conservative Party.
Tyler, it's like we have some of the same positions here. The Conservative Party of Canada is running on a platform which includes a new anti-corruption law as one of its key policy planks. It doesn't sit well with Canadians when Justin Trudeau and Liberal insiders, especially related to SNC-Lavalin, which is in the news this week because Jody Wilson-Raybould called the Prime Minister a liar, and she's the former Justice Minister. So we have a lot to do to strengthen our ethics laws in Canada, and all elected officials and all public servants need to be held to a stricter code of conduct, and there needs to be more consequences. Writing reports and saying someone did something wrong is not good enough in the 21st century. There needs to be teeth behind some of the laws we have, and it's time that we change that. The Conservative Party of Canada brought in our existing laws, which expose many of the things that tick off so many people who pay taxes. And it's the Conservative Party that's going to even bring in stricter laws to make sure that everyone plays by the same rules, and Justin Trudeau and his Ottawa insiders aren't going to get an easy out from future violations.
Thank you very much. And excuse me, Nicole Belay of the Green Party.
A very good question. That's the first time we have that question during the debate too. So that's interesting. We need a lot more transparency in the whole in the parliament for sure, and because it's like Lynn said, it's eroding the trust of people of our democracy, and we need quite a bit more accountability and consequences. So like the Accountability Actually Act, the Climate Accountability Act, it's called like that, but there's absolutely no accountability. So if Canada doesn't reach their target, there's nothing happening. And so we need to be, as parliamentarian, we need to be accountable. We need to have consequences when things go wrong. That's thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next question, we will start with Tyler Niles of the People's Party of Canada. Again, this is another question that has come in from a member of the public live during this forum. It's a two-part question. What is your party's position with regards to vaccine passports? Will you support those people who choose not to be vaccinated? So, Mr. Niles, we'll start with you.
Thank you. The People's Party of Canada is very much against vaccine passports, any sort of vaccine mandates, COVID lockdowns, and mandatory vaccines. We choose to support those people who have made the medical choice to not be vaccinated for either a medical, a health reason, or a religious reason. We stand beside them and we support them, and we believe that everyone has the right to choose, and we will support them in that right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Viss, over to you.
Yeah, the Conservative Party of Canada recognizes that at the end of the day, it's the personal health choice of every Canadian to be vaccinated or not to be vaccinated. And I think we need to look very closely at what's taking place in our province with the vaccine passport mandate. I'm sure that's where the questioner was coming from. And we need to look at how it's impacting vulnerable Canadians, pregnant women, people with autoimmune disorders and stuff, and the impact that might have on them and their ability to participate in society. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Belay.
Yes, I'm sure that everybody knows that it's a provincial jurisdiction, and so it's not a federal matter, but I will anyway give the statement of the Green Party is that we want to promote as much as possible the vaccine, and but we recognize that for some reason, either medical or cultural, people have the right to choose to not to have it and have a different system, like a quick testing. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And Lynn Perrin.
Yes, the NDP required all of their candidates to have both vaccines, or they could not be a candidate. And we've had very strict protocols when it comes to COVID-19, and it's one of the reasons that the NDP did not have a campaign office in Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon. And I'm very empathetic to people who, for medical reasons, cannot have a vaccine. You know, people have a choice to have the vaccine or not, but that doesn't mean that they can put other people at risk. So if medical experts have determined that being in a restaurant with other people for unvaccinated puts other people at risk, then they should not be able to go to all places without being vaccinated.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next question, Mr. Viss has touched on this a bit, and he's the one who's actually going to lead off. So he can elaborate a bit further if he wants. And that is, if you are elected in this riding, what sort of presence do you plan to have in the northern and rural part of the riding? So Mr. Viss, you start with this one.
Right. Like I was doing before, I'm going to set a schedule. I'm going to publish it in local newspapers. I'm going to communicate it in community newsletters and email blasts. And I'm going to set a regular schedule to be present in the Fraser Canyon on a 5 to 6 week period, sort of like I was doing before. It's very imperative to be up in the Fraser Canyon. I often say to people who look at our riding and say, wow, that's a crazy riding. How do you do it? It's dedicating staff to working specifically on the Fraser Canyon, which I commit to doing again. Allison Rochelle in my office has been a huge help, but unfortunately after the election, she's moving on to another position. But we're going to continue being present, and I'm going to continue elevating the Fraser Canyon and giving it the attention it deserves. There's a lot of land-based issues that need to be addressed following up from the forest fires, and it's going to take an active MP to be present there again. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Belay, over to you.
There's nothing like a person-to-person connection. And so I believe that, you know, it's important to go. I know that the time is limited, but it's important to make this connection at first anyway, and have some, so meet the people that are important to know what's going on, to have the pulse of the town, and keep in contact with as many people as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Lynn Perrin.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've traveled the riding. In fact, I started out one time in Abbotsford, and I went all the way like up to Lytton, up to Lillooet, through the Duffy Lake Road, through Pemberton, Whistler, and back home in one day. Then another time I took 6 days, and I went from Whistler and then up to Braylorne and across to Lillooet and Lytton, and then down the canyon. So while it seems to be expansive, it is still not impossible for a member of parliament to have a presence, a physical presence. And I would look at the aspect of a mobile office, or at least a part-time office in the canyon area of the riding. There's no need to have a full-time urban office and have nothing in the more the canyon area. I'm sure there's a really good compromise that can be made.
Right, thank you very much. And Mr. Niles.
The Fraser Canyon is a beautiful area. I enjoy traveling through it recreationally on holidays for hiking and hunting as well. There's some wonderful wineries in the area that my wife and I like to visit. If elected, I would continue to tour the area for, as often as possible. I would set up a schedule of sorts and make it available to all members of the community, as well as give my contact information out so that if there is any sort of emergency issues that arise, I'm able to get a hold of quickly. It is a very short drive to get up to Lillooet. It's a short drive to get up to Cache Creek. And I'm no stranger to driving, as I have to commute across the country at times for work. So traveling is something I enjoy doing. I love meeting new people, and I like to get out and see this wonderful country of ours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure you'll all be relieved to know this is the last question. So, and we're going to start with Nicole Belay. Everyone talks about party leadership voting for or against a leader, yet it is your name on the ballot. Who should we vote for? You, the party, or the leader?
Of course, me, the person on the ballot. You can't vote for a leader. He's not the one representing you. I am the one representing you. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynn Perrin. Same question to you.
Yes, sadly, the way it seems to go is that the people do actually, while they're voting for the candidate in their riding, mostly they're looking at the leader. That is just the fact of political life in Canada. But I would hope that people take a look at what I have done over the last 30 years in our communities to see that I would be a really good advocate for them in Ottawa, within my own party, but also within the whole of the House of Commons.
All right, thank you very much. Tyler Niles.
I believe that people should vote their values. They should review the party platform and compare them all side by side and look at the candidates and vote for which party and which candidate best suits their values. I feel that that's the best way to get a proper democracy. I feel that that's the way our system is supposed to be working, and I don't feel that's the way it's working currently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Brad Biss.
Yeah, this is actually a question I've struggled with myself through many years of graduate school studying political science in my 20s. And I firmly believe at the end of the day that our system in Canada is better served when people are voting for the candidates. It's candidates with local knowledge on the ground. It's candidates that can bring up issues like the Big Bar landslide that I did, the first MP in the country to raise it for wild salmon. It's candidates who can raise issues of internet connectivity. If we don't have candidates and we rely too heavily on the party system, irrespective of party, we lose the nuances that communities bring to the legislature. We lose those conversations that shape our beliefs and get us moving to be active in the political process at first. And that's why, since I've been elected, I've worked really hard to bring forward as many petitions as possible to ensure that everyone in Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon had solid local representation from Brad Viss, irrespective of whether they voted for me in the last election or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, the questions come to an end. So now you will each have 2 minutes to wrap up and make your closing pitch to the viewers. And we are going to go in the reverse order. So I'll just remind everyone, we will start with Lynn Perrin of the New Democrat Party, and then it will be Tyler Niles, Nicole Belay, and Brad Viss. So Lynn Perrin, New Democratic Party, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. So I've been paying really close attention to what's taken place in Ottawa for years, and I've also analyzed our 116-page Ready for Better commitments. And I sincerely believe that Jagmeet Singh and the NDP have effective and affordable policies that can resolve many of the challenges we are facing. If we want different results, we need to make different choices. The Democrats don't answer to the powerful. We fight for people and deliver the help that families need first. New Democrats are focused on getting results for Canadians. We're fighting for the supports that people need now, and we are winning results and getting more help for more people faster. Ready for Better is our vision for what we believe in is possible, and our commitment to real results that we're going to deliver to Canadians. So on September 20th, I hope that I will get your support so that I can be your advocate in Ottawa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And next, Tyler Niles, the People's Party of Canada.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for hosting us. I'd like to thank the other candidates for a great evening of discussion. I would like to say that I am not a career politician, but I was raised to stand up for what is right in the face of adversity, even if you're the only one who's standing. That's how I conduct myself through my business and through my work career. That's how I intend to conduct myself if elected to Parliament. And it's how I intend to carry on and hopefully pass those traits down to my children. I hope that on September 20th, you will get out and vote for me, vote for the People's Party, vote for freedom for all Canadians, respect for all Canadians, fairness for all Canadians, and responsibility for all Canadians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Nicole Ballet of the Green Party of Canada.
The main reason I'm running is to build a better future for all of our children. I want to leave them a place where well-being and health are as important as wealth. As hot as this summer has been, compared to the next 100 years, it may be one of the coolest. A vote for me means it will stop sending your tax money to a dying industry. Clean energy is coming. A vote for me means more funding for healthcare, including pharmacare, dental care, mental health, and rehab centers. A vote for me means good local jobs. A vote for me is fair taxation for all. A vote for me means a good social safety net, including a guaranteed livable income and free post-secondary education. A vote for me means respecting Indigenous rights. A vote for me means more affordable housing. And a vote for me means healthy future for your kids. Don't tell me the Green Party can't form a government. In 1993, there were only 2 Conservative MPs, like the Green right now. 9 years later, they were forming a majority in the majority government. So you can vote for what you believe. Use your vote to build the future you want. Vous pouvez compter sur moi, je vais travailler sans arrêt pour apporter les changements nécessaires au bon fonctionnement de notre communauté. Your vote is the most powerful way of demanding what you want. I'm asking you for your vote and your trust. On September 20th, vote Nicole Ballet. Thank you.
Excuse me, thank you, merci. And we finished with Brad Viss, Conservative Party of Canada.
Yeah, first off, thank you, Barbara, and to my fellow candidates for a great discussion. I'll just end with a story. One of my favorite moments since I got elected was meeting with some of the Chehalis Nation on the Lower Fraser when I was first elected, and they said to me, Brad, and this goes for many of the First Nations through the entirety of the riding, their culture is based on wild salmon and fish, and in certain parts. And he said, here at Chehalis, the fish runs through our blood. And I said to them, well, the fish runs through my blood too. And they kind of looked at me silly and they're like, Brad, what are you talking about? I'm like, Vis means fish in Dutch. My ancestors were fishermen in the Netherlands before they immigrated to Canada. And I said, it's just a different type of fish from another part of the world. But sincerely, since I was elected less than 2 years ago, it's been a huge honor and of my professional career to be the member of parliament for this incredible riding. Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon is 22,000 square kilometers of ruggedness. It is a complicated riding that spans ecological areas in the province, from the coastal rainforest up into desert areas around Ashcroft and Cache Creek. There is a lot of things that need to get done in this riding, including getting past the forest fires and better forest management plans. A vote for Brad Viss is a vote for an MP who's going to put his heart and soul into all of the communities in this riding, who's going to give it his very level best every single day to honor the position of member of parliament with effective and efficient and fair service to all people within the riding. It's been a true honor to be at the Hub debate. A big shout out to Vicky Trill, who's been doing our timekeeping. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And so a thank you very much to the Hub Online Network, to Brad Vist, Conservative Party of Canada, Nicole Ballet, Green Party of Canada, Tyler Niles of the People's Party of Canada, and Lynn Perrin of the New Democratic Party of Canada for joining us here tonight. Don't forget, Election Day is on Monday, the 20th. The polls are open from 7 in the morning till 7 p.m. In Spence's Bridge, you can vote all day at Clems Hall. On Highway 8 in Ashcroft, you can vote at the Ashcroft Community Hall on Bancroft Street. And in Cache Creek, you can vote at the Cache Creek Community Hall on Stage Road. So don't forget to vote on Monday, September 20th. Thank you to all the candidates for being here tonight, and good night.
Thank you.